Hey guys, Lone Wolf here, and I'm sure to nobody's surprise, I've got some Battlefield Hardline beta gameplay. I've been playing this for the last 2.5 hours and I've actually been really enjoying it. Last year when the beta came out, I played about 1 hour and then it was pretty much done. I didn't find it particularly enjoyable, it just wasn't suiting me at all. This time around, I've really enjoyed it. Now, I'm going to give my first impressions, I'm going to talk about the things I do like, the things I don't like, the things that concern me a little bit, and the stuff that's got me really quite excited. So let's start off with one of the bigger downsides for me when I loaded up this game. First thing I noticed was that my frame rate was pretty good, about 150 frames per second, which is very respectable, and at that point I would normally say, okay, well, I don't need to worry about performance and I can move on to the gameplay. Unfortunately, there's actually some micro stuttering at the moment, at least in the beta, that meant aiming for me was pretty difficult to begin with. I have begun to adjust to it, but it's still a little bit clunky. I think this is probably because Nvidia doesn't have a driver out that's been optimized for this game yet, but either way, in its current state, that was really bothering me to begin with. Wouldn't normally get too caught up on that kind of thing, but when it affects my aim, it's a big deal. As far as graphics are concerned, I would say the graphics are, at least at the moment, a step down from Battlefield 4. I suspect, again, this is because it's in beta, but either way, it was something I noticed pretty much immediately, was it all looks a little bit washed out and not quite dated, but just not as impressive as Battlefield 4. Anyway, all that out of the way, let's move straight on to gameplay, which is of course the most important thing. The first game mode I played was Heist, and that was actually pretty enjoyable. It took me a moment to figure out exactly what the objectives wanted me to do. I think that the same thing can be said for DICE, but Visceral probably needs to work on how they indicate to the player, new players, what the objective actually is, because I can imagine it getting pretty frustrating when you're on a team of people who really doesn't understand what they're supposed to be doing. So I do think, given the game modes that have been added in, that a better job needs to be done as far as showing people exactly what they're supposed to be doing. So with that minor gripe out of the way, how does the game feel as far as gunplay and the netcode are concerned? Well, the netcode I would say is pretty much alright. The first game I played was actually pretty ridiculous because I traded just an absurd number of times, but that does seem to have been more of a server anomaly than anything else, and since then it's been pretty much okay. As far as the guns go, when I first started playing I really did think that all the guns in this game were going to have an absurd amount of recoil. But that's not really the case. It's just that the first carbine that I was using for the operator class, which is the new assault class, the RO933 carbine, just has a ridiculous amount of recoil considering how fast it fires. Having used some of the later unlocks like the M16A3, which I'm using in this footage, I really can't see any reason to use that starting carbine anymore. So I am wondering how Visceral's going about the weapon balance in this game. I'm going to have to wait and unlock some more weapons and use some more guns before I can really give my opinion on exactly how this has worked out. But at the moment it does feel a little bit strange, and it does feel like the more expensive the weapon is, the better it is. When I say expensive, I mean the in-game currency that you use to unlock weapons. However, the advantage to whatever they're doing with weapon balance is that the weapons in this game do at least feel unique and different from one another. Battlefield 4 got me very used to a weapon balance philosophy that seemed to revolve around making all the weapons the same. This game hasn't gone down that path, and I'm pretty excited to see exactly how this plays out. I do think this will result in some balance patches here and there, but I've got no problem with this, and I'm quite interested to see exactly how each of the weapons perform. Thus far I've only used a few of them, but I've been pretty much enjoying most of them, other than that starting carbine that, like I said, just feels useless when you're fighting against players who've got better weapons. As far as maps and game modes are concerned, I found Hotwire to be a little bit boring because on the 32-man servers I was playing, usually that was around 25 players actually there at any given time, and it just felt like the action was a little bit sparse. I think perhaps with 64 players this could be more enjoyable. I think the game mode is a really interesting concept, but at the moment I just felt it was a little bit dull. As far as Heist is concerned, I played that on Bank Job and I really enjoyed that map. I think that map's got some great potential. Even in the limited time I played on there, I was able to conduct a few pretty interesting flanks, so I am encouraged by the fact that this is a map that seems to allow for fairly intelligent play. Now, the map and game mode I played the most was actually Conquest on Dust Bowl. I really enjoyed this. This just allowed for some great infantry combat, and if this is any indication for how Hardline is going to be overall, then I think we're in for a real treat as far as infantry combat goes. been said many times before that this is supposed to be a much more infantry-centric Battlefield game, and that's exactly how it plays out. If you're looking for vehicle combat, then this is obviously not the game for you, but if you enjoy the infantry mechanics that Battlefield has to offer, and just want more of that, then I think this game's going to be right up your alley. So for the most part, I've been pretty impressed by what I've seen so far, and I've been having quite a lot of fun. But there are a couple of things I complain about, everything from the laser trip mine that just has no business being in the game, to irritating little things like not being able to change your squad while you're waiting the deployment screen. I'm sure most of you will be playing the beta for yourselves, but if you decided you weren't going to bother with Hardline, then I would recommend you download the beta and give it another shot. This game really surprised me today, and I'm much more excited for the release as a result. Anyway, this has just been my first impressions. I'll have some more Battlefield Hardline content up in the next week, so stay tuned. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.